record to the cloud. Okay, good evening. We are this time. It looks like everything's working, so we're going to be in good shape. The session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to your faculty professors, so you can view it again. And without further ado, I'm going to let our expert Yelena go ahead and give you this nice introduction and overview of Cognos Analytics. Okay, Yelena, you're on.
Hello all, so here is the agenda for tonight. I'm going to show you how to access new environment, how to get started. We're going to talk about the interface and then data set versus data modular, data preparation, that's where it starts getting hard, data explorations and more, all right? So what exactly are we talking about? What is Cognos Analytics? Cognos Analytics is a self-service with intuitive web-based interface. Basically, the data is uploaded, and as the data is being uploaded, it's being analyzed by application, and some useful information and insights get extracted from the data. Then you can just drag and drop the fields, and you get you learn about the data, right? You learn the relationships between variables and more, right? And then, well, you can also do reporting, but we're not going to cover this in this class, okay? Here are a few important reminders. You don't want to be using the browser back button because you might lose some work. Remember that the deletion cannot be done. There is no recycle bin. So, and here is a danger zone. If you delete the data file, everything that you use, everything you create where the data file is a source, becomes invalid. So think twice before you delete. Always save your work, and you want to start working on assignments early because if you get stuck, you know the story. All right, so this is how you access an application, and I'm going to do it from scratch. This is the web page where you go to vdi.umc.edu, and that's going to take you to UMUC single sign-on page, right? So here you're going to put your my UMUC username and password. It's the same username and password that you use when you access Leo, okay? Click login, and this is supposed to take you to the Citrix page. Your interface will be slightly different because I'm an administrator. So you should see this icon that's called IBM Cognos. This is where you want to click next, and this will launch Cognos Analytics application. It is connecting. So it's starting. Next, what you're gonna do is this. So here you're gonna click on this. Here you're gonna be asked to enter your username and password. Your Cognos username is the same as your MyUMUC username, and the password is welcome. For first letter W is capitalized, number 3, LCOME, and exclamation point. It's because the password must have a number. So I took the word welcome and replaced letter E with number 3. Then I added exclamation at the end. Okay, so let me go back now. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'm not gonna use my account because it's a administrative account. I don't want to confuse you with a bunch of options. I have a special account for the demonstration purposes. That's what I'm gonna use. Okay. All right, so when you sign into your account, and in fact, all of you, if you have not tried to access your account yet, after this session, I want you to do it as soon as possible, okay? So when you log in here, this is what you're gonna see. In the left panel, here, you have several sections. First section is My Content. My Content is where you access all your work, the files that you saved, right? Any files, any folders, anything that you saved. Team content, this is the files that are shared with you. Recent, those are just the shortcuts to everything that you recently opened. And also notice that if you look at the middle panel here, this is also recent. So you can access the recently opened files either from here or from here. This is basically nothing but what you recently opened. A few important things is that here, what I'm looking at, it's not my computer, it's not my PC. This is a remote PC. So if you are doing copy and paste something, you cannot do it directly. You have to use a clipboard. So here it is. If I open this, it's a slide out panel here. This opens up the clipboard. So whenever I need to copy something and paste from my hard drive, from my PC, right? This is a text. I would go here, and then I would go in here. I will go to clipboard. I would paste it here first. Then I would go in wherever I need to paste it to and paste. Okay, so it's a three-step process. You cannot do copy and paste directly. Just remember it. Okay, so now we've got this. This is a menu bar. Basically, you're not going to be able to upload the files. I uploaded it for you, but in order to do that, I had to upload them to the VDA first and then upload from VDA to Cognos. You're not going to be uploading files, and you're going to be using the preloaded files, okay? So this is the navigation panel that we just talked about, the navigation menu. So let me go back in here and I'll show you something else. Here are the quick links to the demonstrations and documentation. This one here is just your account, right? Your preferences, etc. This is accessible from any page. Here, this lists the files that you currently have open. At the moment, I'm just on the welcome page. I have not done anything else. Also, what you could do is this. Search allows you to search. Suppose that you don't remember where you saved the file, but you know the file name, so you can type in the file name, and it will give you all locations, right? It will give you all files that you have access to with these names. Like, for example, this is a national housing, and this is where it's stored, right? This is a data set you're gonna use for one of the assignments. Okay, so let's close this out. Now, here, as you start working, as you start keep on doing the work, your content is gonna be piling up. So what you could do is, you could filter out, perhaps you want to see only the folders that you have, you want to see only the dashboards, or you want to see only the data, right? You also could search, right? You can specify the file you're looking at. Like, for example, I'm gonna do claims, right? Claim, and I can search. That way I'm filtering out the content that I created, okay? So this is an option here. You can get organized, you can start adding folders, because sometimes you want to store the files for each assignment in a separate location. So I can create a folder, perhaps assignment 3, and then I can save files into that folder if I want to, right? So now, what is team content? Let's go over this part. This stuff here and this stuff here, this is pre-installed. The sample data are pre-installed, and those are used in examples in the readings. This comes with installation. But this folder over here, data 610, right? Data for assignment, this is not pre-installed. This is the folder that I set it up for you. And when you click on it here, there is a separate subfolder for each assignment. You notice that? Then this folder is where I upload all the walkthrough data. So that way, when you watch the recording, if you want to follow along, you have that option. So what you're gonna do with the first homework assignment is this. You're gonna click in here. This is a data file that you have to use. And you'll do this. You're gonna click on this menu. You're gonna do copy or move. And you're gonna select your area, and you're gonna copy this file to your area, okay, to my content. Now, you do not have permissions to write in the team content folder, and you do not have permissions to delete anything. So this option is not gonna work. When you try to click on move to, you're gonna be getting this error. If you see this error, it means that you're doing something that your administrator does not allow. So the right way to do is this. You want to copy. Okay, now, I already have a file with the same name. So I have an option to overwrite, or I have an option to rename, right? I'm gonna hit cancel right now. I'm not gonna do that. But you, on your content, in your area, you may have only one file. with the same name. You cannot have two files with the same name, okay? Now here I had the filtering open. To close it, you just click on this funnel. Now you also have options to sort the contents, right? You have options to sort. What we're gonna do next is, so I showed you here how to access the preloaded data, and I created a separate folder for each assignment just to help you out. This is the data that we're gonna use for tonight's demonstration. The data tracks the insurance claims record, including the customer demographics, customer monthly premiums, their location, and information about the claim. And the goal is to predict the total claim amount, but there are some issues in the data where some records are incomplete. Like, for example, if you see here, right, you see how half of the fields at least are missing data, or sometimes, like, see this effective date 2. Let's assume that if there is no effective date 2, then the record is incomplete and we want to skip it, right? Here, months from, all right, this one, the data is missing once in a while, perhaps, right? So here you can handle it. You can, first, we're gonna remove the totally incomplete record, and then whatever is remained, we're gonna replace the missing values with the column average, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, I'll show you how to do it. Now, here is important concepts to talk about. In the first homework assignment, you're asked straight to use the data set and to build your exploration straight from the data set. However, whenever you're doing it straight from the data set, any calculations, any filtering that you apply will not be available from anywhere else. So for this reason, you want to create a data modular. Data modular allows you to customize the data. Where data set, you cannot edit the data directly. You cannot define any filters. You cannot define the calculations in the data set. You would have to do it explicitly on an exploration or in the dashboard that we're gonna do later in this course. But the problem is if you do it in the exploration, whatever you did cannot be reused. You will have to do it all over. We want to be able to reuse our work and we want to do it once, okay? And also you may preview the data directly if you're using the data module. So now we're gonna talk about how to create the data module. Let's use the data set here. So this is I already created the data module in the last demo, but we're gonna start all over. So I have a data set, and how do you know it's a data set? See this, you have this arrow. Every different file type have different icon here. So this is a data set. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna do create data modular. I'm gonna create data modular, and when I do this, notice that the new data modular opens. Over here on the left panel, I see what data source I used to build this data module. And in this case, I use the claims, and I use this claims and weather XLS file, right? If I click on this source, I'm gonna see my data. So here is the data that is in a file. Well, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When I just showed you the screenshot of the file, I did not see this row ID. Where does it come from? Row ID is a hidden column. This column is just tracking the row number. The column, if the column is hidden, it's not available to a user. You're not gonna see this column when you build your visualizations, but this column still exists in a data module, right? So here is also a list of your columns, and the icon next to the column name depends on the column data type, such as if it's a categorical or if it's a numeric, etc. Right? What you have to do now, you need to save as a data module. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do save as, and I'm gonna put it on my content as always. And let's see, I have to use a unique name. I have to use a unique name. Okay, so I'm gonna click on save. Now this is a data module that I'm creating right now. Here is a list of my variables, right? Here is a data preview. Here, null represents the missing value. So if the value is missing, you're going to see it null over here. All right, that's what it means. Next, we're going to talk about the data pre-processing, right? But first, this is a data module interface that I just went over, and we were in a grid view. So you have to select the grid view to preview the data. Don't worry about the relationship because the data modules that we create for this class are going to be based only on one data set. We're not doing any type of joins or anything like that, right? So null means no results, and I showed you why the columns are grayed out. This is important topic, data preparation. For the data preparation, we want to show hide certain columns in the view, right? We want to add the filters, and there are two types of filters, embedded filter and a selectable filter, and I'm going to explain each type. Then you may edit the column properties. You might handle the outliers. Outliers are extremely large or extremely small values. You may add calculations, you may add data groups and navigation paths that allow you to drill down through the data in visualization. You may hide the column. So to hide the column, you're just going to do this. Here, suppose that this is a column, this is a column that I want to hide, such as state, right? I would need to click here, and I can just hide from user's view. To unhide it, I click here, and I'm going to show to users. Sometimes you may want to hide the column if the column is perhaps it's a calculation, intermediate calculation. It's a calculation that's used in another calculation that you don't want to show the users, right? But if the column is hidden, you may still use it inside the data module for the calculation. Or sometimes it could be something like user identifying data that you don't want to be visible in your visualizations, right? So you can go ahead and hide it. Or sometimes it could be repeating information, as you'll see it in your assignment 2. Hint, hint, in your assignment 2 data, there is one column that's repeating information in the other column. So that's one reason when you want to hide, right? So just keep this in mind. So next thing, we're going to talk about the filters, right? And there are two types of filters, and I'll show you. I spelled it out for you. So a filter specifies the conditions that the field must meet in order for the records to stay, right? I want to look at a specific subset of data that meets a certain condition. And in order to define this filter, you have to create an expression. An expression is could be a combination of functions and variables, right? There are different types of filters. You may define the filter on a specific column, right? Like for example, the car type is a small vehicle, something like that. Or you may define the filter on a whole table where multiple columns could be involved in the condition. There are two types of filters. Embedded filters are applied right away, immediately. As soon as you define the filter, it's applied, that's it. And then another type of filters is selectable, where you define them, but then you have an option if you want to turn them on and off. You're gonna use them in explorations, where you can just drag and drop the filter to visualization, okay? And then you might turn it on, right? Or you may delete it from visualization, which is turn it off, okay? It's not applied right away. You may apply it as you go. So I spelled it out, the steps how to create an embedded filter. And here we are going to create embedded filter, and I want to omit the rows with missing effective to date, okay? I just decided this. If the claimant does not have effective to date, it means that the claimant is not covered. Here, this is very important where you define stuff. I want this to be the embedded filter, right? I want it to be applied right away. So I have two options. I can go in here, I can go to properties, and I can select filters here. That's one option. Another option, I can right click here, and I can do the manage filters. Remember, manage filters not filter, but manage filters. If I do filter, it's going to be selectable filter. But if I want it to be embedded, you have to go either manage filter or properties and select filter stub. Okay. Now I'm going to do this. Instead of selecting a column, I'm going to do Y expression editor, and I'm going to add the filter on the whole table, right? And what I'm going to say is this. I need to do if this date, right? And this is I think it's an effective to date. I can drag and drop, right? If this is missing, if this is not missing, right? Effective to date, sorry, we don't need an if statement. Effective to date is this, not missing. Effective to date, not missing, right? So this is a criteria. Effective to date is not missing. And if I'm not sure what my operator is, I can go to here, f of x. You see this is the operators. And there is an operator here, is not missing. I can drag and drop. That's another way to do it. If I did not know, I can drag and drop. Now what I can do in here, this is a validation. See this? You want to make sure expression is valid. So effective to date is not missing. That's what I want to do. And now when I have to add here I want to put the descriptive filter name. You want to make sure that filter name is descriptive. Let me say, I'm going to say complete records. I'm just going to say complete records, right? And in my definition, complete records have an effective to date. If this date is unavailable, then let's assume somebody not coverage. I want to eliminate them altogether. I'm going to click OK. Notice that right now, my data is updated, and immediately all records where effective to date was not available or null got filtered it out, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean that I took care of all missing values in my data. I think I still have some of them, right? Some of my variables still have them, because when I showed you the screenshot of the data, right? When I showed you the screenshot of the data, there were some missing values still in, I believe it's an income or something like that. I still had them. So we're gonna handle them as well. We're gonna handle them in a few. But before that, see this here, I showed you how to create the embedded filter. Now we're gonna do selectable filter first. So what I want to do is this. Sometimes I want to look at my visualizations where the policy type contains personal, when I have a personal policy type, and the vehicle size is small. So I'm going to call my filter personal coverage for small vehicles. Let me go back here. Very important. I must specify the descriptive name for my filter, because when I use this data in my visualization, the filters that I create will be listed here. It will have the filter name, but I will not be able to see how the filter is defined without going back to this data module. I won't be able to see it, but if I have a descriptive name, that will help me. So now, unlike embedded filter, to create a selectable filter, I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to say filter. Right? I'm going to say filter. And what I'm going to do here is this. I'm going to say personal coverage for small vehicle. Right? This is a name. Now what I'm going to do is this. What I did was secretly, I already wrote an expression for this filter beforehand, and it's on my computer. See this? I have it already here somewhere. Here. See this? Policy type contains personal, vehicle contains small. I want to reuse this expression. So this is what I have to do. I can do Control C. This is my computer. I want to reuse it. I do Control C. The problem is if I try to paste this right now, it might not work. Well, it might not work because I need to have this in my clipboard. I have to go in here and paste it here first. Then I need to go in here and paste it. It's a three-way process. Now I'm gonna do the validate. And it does not work. Do you know why it doesn't work? It's because I clicked in the wrong place when I tried to create this expression. So let's close this out. Let's do cancel. I have to click over here instead. See this? I cannot click on the data module. I need to click here. So what I'm trying to show you is that where you click is important, right? I did it intentionally. So I'm gonna go here. You have to click here on this explicit table, on this explicit source. So I'm gonna do filter. I'm gonna do paste again, and I'm gonna say that personal policy for small vehicle, okay? So remember this, where you click is important, okay? Personal policy for small vehicle, that's gonna be the filter name. So now it's supposed to work, okay? So when you see that error that I reproduced earlier, it means that you click in the wrong spot. Now, what this actually does is this, it returns, behind the scene, it returns true and false, right? True or false. So if the policy is personal, and if the vehicle size is small, then the filter will return the record. Let's click OK, and let's see what's going on in here now. I said I want to see the car is small, but on the other hand, if I go in here, see this, what's going on? I still see corporate policy, and I still see the medium-sized vehicle. Well, the reason is the filter that I just created, it's not an embedded filter, it's a selectable filter. So when I'm doing my visualizations, I'll have a choice if I want to apply it or not. It's not applied immediately, right? But still, I want to define it here, so that way it's reusable. I don't need to keep on defining it every time I have to use it in my visualizations. All I have to do is just drag and drop. It's convenient. Another important thing is that you have to save your work. Always save your work. Always save your work. Okay? Now, so we went through this. Usually when I do the presentation, sometimes I don't follow the slides, but here I'm trying to make sure that I use the same examples as here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna handle some missing values. If the income value is missing, we want to set it to the average income. We want to set it to average. And to do this, you would need to edit the expression. So here, very important, some students ran into errors because they specified this in an incorrect place. In this case, what we are doing, it is not a filter. We are editing the expression for the column. So I'm going to find my income in here. This is my income. And I'm going to go here, click on this. This is a properties, this is a general, and I'm going to edit this expression. I'm going to click on view or edit. And in here, right now, an expression is income to keep it as is. But what I did here, I already wrote its expression and I want to reuse it. So I'm going to go Control-C, but remember it, I cannot do copy-paste directly. I cannot do it here. So I have to go in here. This is my clipboard. I paste it here first. Then I'm going to go back here and I'm going to paste it again. Okay, I'm going to paste it again. Control-V. Okay, so what this expression is actually doing is this. It's an if then else. And it says if income is missing, then I wanted to set it to average. Average income is going to calculate the average overall. Otherwise, I want to keep it as is. This might be a little bit difficult to read, so I have this option in here. Prettify is going to indent the code for me, and I can see what it's actually doing, right? Now, I'm not going to rename my column. I'm going to keep it as is. And over here, this is a syntax. This is a syntax, right? So I'm going to click OK. What this will do is immediately the missing income values got populated with the average. You can see that this is one, right? Because it's not rounded. Well, you could round it, but well, I'll leave it up to you. Now here, you may notice that here too, like monthly premium auto, you could handle it as well. You can set it to average, but I'll leave it for you. If you want to, take this file and practice afterwards, okay? I showed you how to do one, right? So what I did, I set the missing value to an average. The way you handle missing values depends on on how many variables are missing the value. Like for example, to date. In that case, the rows that were missing to date were also missing other fields. So I decided to remove those rows. But in general, if you're removing the rows, you're at risk of losing data. So sometimes if it just perhaps couple values are missing, you could just impute them or set them to the, perhaps you can set them to the average. Or if it's a categorical variable, you may have a special value that indicates that the value is missing, like for instance, NA or not available. You may record them. So you would do it something like if the value is missing, right? If something is missing, then you're gonna put in a quote what you want to set it to, right? So you have this option in your assignment 2. Yes, in the data that you use for assignment 2, there might be some categorical variables that also missing values. So that's an opportunity. You can set to predefined value, right? And another thing that you may notice is this. When I click on the properties here, you can, one of the properties tells you if the value may have missing values. See here, when I click on the advanced, over here, see this supports null values. When this is checked, it means that the null values are possible in this column, okay? So just keep this in mind. All right, so we went through missing values. I'm gonna save this, right? I'll save this. Come on, save. And then, like, see this here, this is a file name. If you see this little star next to the file name, it means that the later changes you've made were not saved. You want to save it. These buttons here, undo or redo, I believe you may undo up to 20 last operations since the file was open. I believe it's 20. Okay. Now, let's go back to the slides. Okay. So, you will use the data modular to create new exploration, but then we're gonna go back to this. We're gonna be modifying the data modular later on. But what you're gonna do right now is this. You're gonna close this. This is very important. When you're using the data modular, for the exploration, every time when you make a change to the data modular, you need to reopen the exploration. Otherwise, the changes that you've made won't be visible. So right now, I'm gonna close this. To close this, you just X out here. You're gonna go back, and it's gonna, what you just did, it's gonna show on your my content, right? Or it's also gonna show in here. So this is a data module, and here is the date when I last accessed it, last modified it. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna click on the ellipsis here, and I'm gonna click create exploration. I'm gonna use this data modular as a source. And very important, I use the data set to create the data modular. If I delete my data set, my data modular will become invalid. In addition, any explorations that I created I use the data modular as a source, will also become invalid. So just bear it in mind, right? This is what not to do. So here, what it says here, this is the claims and weather data modular. This is what I used as a data source. And this here, this is a source that was used to create the data modular, okay? So in here, what I'm supposed to see is, this is a filter that I created. This is a filter. Remember that I showed you how to create as a selectable filter. And sometimes I want to be able to filterize the visualization for the personal policy, personal vehicle, small vehicle type, right? But notice that when I click on the properties here, I cannot see how this filter was defined. What only thing I could do is, sometimes I can rename, sometimes I cannot, right? So let's close this out. This I cannot see how it was defined without going back to the data module. That's the reason I want you to use the descriptive names here. Over here, this is similar to what you saw in the data module. Those are the columns, and different icon indicates the column data type. You can click here, and you can see the properties of a column, right? So like usage, here it's showing it as an identifier, but it's actually not. Okay, here this is showing as an aggregation. What to do if you're trying to say perhaps you want to show the data by the country, right? By default, what is it gonna do? You know, things like that. This one, it represents a geographical location and it's a country. If you were going to do map visualization, this represents a geographical location. And here is the state, etc. You can see the properties, right, etc. Now, what is here is that it looked at my variables in the data set, and here it lists the potential target variables. It tried to determine which variables I want to be interested in predicting when I build my visualization. And in this case, it identified the total claim amount. See here, it lists other variables that I might be interested to predict, like a monthly premium, outer, etc. Each variable in here is represented as a little circle. And here, the dark circle, this is a dependent variable. So when I click on this here, it's trying to give me the suggested visualizations. This is a visualizations that I would be interested to see. And those is called, it's referred to initial set of questions in your assignment 2. This is called initial set of questions. And I can click on show more, etc. Okay. Now, what else you see here? Those are the other variables called independent variables. And there are connecting lines between this dependent variable and independent variable. The connecting line shows the relationship strength. Okay, it shows the relationship strength. So when you hover over the line, you're supposed to see the strength, how strong the relationship is. When I select a different target here, my diagram is going to redraw, right? And this is for this target. So let's go back to total claim amount. So see here, the thicker the line, the stronger the relationships. And if the relationship is below 10%, it's omitted. What you see here is only the relationships that are above 10%. The strength is above 10%, okay? And again, if you click here, if you click on this, you're gonna see the visualizations that you might be interested in, like here. And I can add the visualizations to my exploration workbook just by clicking on the plus sign in here. And this was added something called the card. This is called the visualization card. See this? Now here, it has the details of the insights about my visualizations, anything that Cognos was able to identify for me. And the data slots is which variables are used to build the visualizations. So every bar is for employment status. The length is a total claim amount, but wait a minute. I don't really like how it looks like, because what it did was it showed me the sum, right? So what I have to do is I need to change the aggregation type, because I want to see the average claim amount for employment status. So I'm gonna click on here, and I'm gonna go to the summarize, and I'm gonna change from sum to average. So now it's gonna show me the average claim amount. This is the average claim amount for the employee class, right? What I could do now, I could filter it. I could filter it further. And let's do this. I'm gonna go to the navigation panel. This is called the navigation panel, right? So here, what I'll do is, this is a filter that I created earlier in the data module, and I want to look only data for personal policy type where vehicle size is small. I have to take this, and I have to hover, right? Make sure that local filter slot is highlighted. And right now, my data is filtered specifically for this criteria, right? Personal policy type for small vehicle. What I have to do next is I have to save it. Always save your work, and I'm going to save it to my content. See this? The icon with a single person, it stands for my content. And I'm going to do this explorations, claims explorations. Remember this, you cannot have two explorations in the same name in your area, right? In your content area. So I have to use a different name. I cannot use the same name as I used in the last session. All right, here, see this data slot. This is where you specify which variables you want to use for visualization. If you see this little star, it means the data slot is required. If I don't specify anything in here, I cannot build the visualization. Another thing to notice is that in here, you cannot change colors, you cannot change how visualization looks like, because here, this is an exploration, this is not for the presentation purposes. But for the presentation purposes, we're gonna look at our next session. We're gonna have another session and we look at the presentation. Another thing, what you could do is this, you can see the related visualizations. So when I click here, it's gonna give me the recommended visualizations. So those are the so-called related questions. Based on the visualization you're looking at right now, it may see what else I might be interested in, right? So I can just select any visualization and it's gonna add this to the, it's gonna add it as a part. This is a just different way to visualize the total claim amount by employment status. And suppose that I want to keep the same filter as in the last visualization. I want to have the same filter, and actually it's already there for me because it created related visualization. The same filter is already applied, but if it was not, I can just drag and drop and apply. Okay, so that's interesting. When I do related visualization, it keeps the filter for me. This is something new. I just realized it. Okay, anyhow. So remember that you've got the details, not as the insights. So when you describe in the visualization in your paper, first you want to read it, then you want to summarize. But also there might be something that you observe that is not necessarily listed here. All of us have different insights, right? Another thing that I wanted to show you is this. When you click here, this is going to show you which data is being visualized. Okay? It takes a little bit to load, but in here, you will see the columns and the values that are actually being visualized. Here is going to be all data. This is all data, and this is the data that is being visualized. It takes a little bit of time to load, but that's okay. You just know what this stuff is. Okay? So sometimes if you're showing something like a summary and you need to include a screenshot in your paper, you can do sometimes the numerical here, or sometimes you can do it the graph, whatever works for you, right? So now, since we're looking at the visualizations, there are many ways to add them. Another way here, this little guy, you're gonna like it. This little guy, it can basically show you the relationships in your data. Look at this. When you click here, right, I can just type data. I can just type data command. When you click on the help, it's going to explain to you. It's going to explain to you what it can do, right? So if when I click on the show data, when I click on show data, it's going to give me the data that I have access to. This is the data that I have access to. Now I'm going to click on the data module that we created today, and it's going to give me all variables that I have in my data module. It also has all variables that I have. And for each variable, it's going to tell me its data type, right? If it has outliers, remember outliers are the extremely large values. Like for example, suppose that you took a test and everybody's grade is between, most of the students got grade between 85 to 100%. And one student got 5%. The 5% is an outlier because it's abnormally low value, right? So here, but it's not going to tell you exactly which values are outliers, right? You will have to do some little bit of more homework to find that out, okay? But here it lists the fields, and you can click on a field, and when you click on a field, it's gonna give you more information on it, and it also gives you which fields might be related to your field. And then when you click on the related field, you're gonna get a visualizations actually, because you can scroll through the list, right? And you can select one. When you select one, you can just edit a card here, right? Or I can look at the related visualizations, and this is related. If I'm interested in this, I can just click here, and I can add this. To add this, I would have to go do new single card, and I can drag and drop. And this adds the visualization. Oh, see this? Right now it works. It shows me the visualized data. See this? This is what is visualized, and it's gonna be the income. For some reason, it's doing the sum. You would have to change the aggregation to do the average, okay? But anyhow, this is employment status and income. And depending on what you're doing in the paper, you could include either visualization or this, right? There are options, it depending on what you are discussing, what you're doing. So here, it just basically, this is a data slot. It's showing you, it's which variable represents the bars and which variable represents the bar lengths. And you could also, if you wanted to, you can apply the filter. Right now, the filters are not applied, but see this, that's one reason I define my filters in data module, because I want them to be reusable. I want to be able to just do this, drag and drop, and that's it, right? I want to be able to just drag and drop, and I don't want to worry about defining the filter again, okay? So let me go back, let me save it. Now I'm going to go back to my assistant here. So basically behind the scene, when you click on the column, if I go above here, this is a command that actually ran. This is a command that actually ran in here. And to rerun the command, I would click on this and hit enter, okay? Remember that in the beginning, I told you that when you hit the browser backspace button, you may lose your work. Yes. Also, if you click on refresh, you may lose the commands history in here. So just keep that in mind. You may lose the commands history. Okay, but to clear the commands history, you would click on this icon. This will clear the commands history. Okay. Now, there are multiple ways to add visualizations, as it says in the slides. And I showed you how to use Assistant, right? I showed you how to do it through suggested visualizations. So let's go back here. I want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And this is the interface, right? So basically, if you're looking at the specific visualization, like here, click on over here, this is showing me all visualizations that I have in the current exploration file. Each visualization here, it's called a card. When I click on here, this is going to show me the fields in my data. When I click on this pin allows me to create a shortcut to visualizations. This will become useful later on when you start creating the presentations, because I can click on this pin and it will create a shortcut for my visualization. Then I can easily drag and drop it from the shortcut, from this tab, right? And this is the assistant that we use here. It can also be accessed in here. It can also be accessed here, all right? So here, this is a card number. This is the second card in a workbook. Over here, I can click here, and this is a related visualizations, right? And also, I believe I can change the visualization type. I believe I should have an option to change the visualization type. Oh, here it is. This is change visualization type. And when I scroll down, there are related visualizations also. Oh, here it is. Here, I click here, this is related visualizations. Sorry, I made a mistake earlier. Here is a related visualizations. Here is a visualization type. So what it will do is, it will change the type. Like for example, if I want to show it like this, right? This changes the visualization type, right? Then I could click on, I can undo, right? I changed the visualization type earlier. This is the reason why I still had the filter. Now I can click on related, and I'm gonna click on related, okay? And then I'm gonna do data slots. Oh, and still my filter is in there. That's excellent. Okay, good. It's because, see this, I defined the selectable filter. It's nice and easy to use, right? So now what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna click on save. Oh, and here I can hover here and I'm gonna get insights here. See this number 2? I can get my insights here. Oh, I can just click on details and here are more insights, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do next is this. I showed you how to add visualizations. There are many types. You can do it from here, right? Where you see the initial starting point. You can do related visualizations. You can use the assistants, right? Then we talked about this relationship diagram. Something to remember that this is not the relational data model. This is just shows you which variables have a relationship among them and relationship strengths. So you've got the suggested starting points. I just spelled it out in here. And I also spelled it out how to use embedded assistant in here. So that way you have it information in writing, okay? And in here, this is an example on how to show the variables. Then you can click on the variable, specific variable, and you're gonna see the details, okay? Same thing here. You can view the column details and you can do the visualization. Oh, this is another command. This is called what influences. Like for example, I can go back in here and I can type what influences total claim amount. Now what it's gonna do, it's gonna look for the data sets that I have access to that has this column called claim amount. It's gonna give it to me. See this? So those are the variables that potentially could influence this claim amount. Then I can click on this and I can see the visualizations. And I can add these visualizations to my workbook. Okay, so we went through that. Now, oops, yeah, here it is. Here I just spelled out more what you could do. See this, when you click on the eye, you get insights for the data. Okay, you get basically what insights is that it's an explanation of your visualization in a natural language. So in our English natural language, explain what this visualization shows. That's what basically it is. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the navigation path also, and we're gonna talk about the calculations. And okay, so now, oops, here comes the fun part. First of all, navigation part. Earlier, navigation path allows you to drill through the data in visualization. What is important here is that where you defined it. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to define it in this exploration. I have several options here. If I create something in the data modular, it will be available everywhere where I use this data modular as a source. On the other hand, here, if I define it here, it will be available only in this exploration workbook. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to click on navigation path. Now, what I want to happen is that I want to be able to drill down through the state code and location code, right? I want to be able to drill down through location code within a state. So I'm gonna drag and drop state here. Create navigation path, come on. Drag and drop, okay, state code. And then I'm gonna go back and go down here and I'm gonna navigate the location code, put it right down there. Notice that what is it gonna do is gonna create the navigation path with this name. This name is editable, but I like to keep it as is, right? Because you want to know what was used to create it, okay? So I have this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new visualization. So I'm gonna do new, single, and what I'm gonna do in here is I'm gonna go choose type, and let's say if I want to, oops, I'm gonna stop, okay, sorry. Okay, now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna create a new visualization, and I can select anything I want, any visualization, right? So let's do this. I selected this. Now what I'll do is I want the size to be the relative total claim amount, right? And I want this to be by this right here, state code. So I want to show it by this state code, right? I drag and drop it here. Then what I want the sizes to be is that I want it to be total claim amount, which is here, right? I want the size to be average total claim amount, right? And I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna change the aggregation type to I'm gonna change the summarize to average, okay? Here we go. So here, I'm looking into my data, but I'm looking at the data by the state, right? Now, what this navigation path gives me the option to is I can drill down, I can click on the state, right click, and when I right click, this is an option to drill down within the state. I can look at the data by the location code. This is urban, suburban, and rural, right? Or I could also drill up. So see this here, I can go up in a hierarchy. Hierarchical data structure is basically nothing but you can drill down. Like for example, in this case, you have locations within a state, right? Another good analogy would be the grad school, the data analytics program in a grad school, a data 610 class in a data analytics program, and then within data 610 you have your session, right? So if I was looking at the average grade perhaps for assignment 1, I could break it down by the course, like data 610, then I could break it down by session, right? Something like that. So this is a hierarchical data when you want to drill down and you can have multiple levels. Or you could have perhaps a year and you want to drill down by the months within a year and you can drill down by the day of the week, etc. Okay? But since I created this in here, it won't be available anywhere else outside this workbook. Okay? So now I'm gonna save it. So let's see what's next. I usually don't follow the slides, but this time I want to because we're covering a lot of complex information here. So this is a drill through examples that I just showed you. Now I'll show you that what you can do. You can do the calculation. Calculation is nothing but just another variable. When you add a calculation, it will create a new variable. Depending on where you add a calculation, it determines the visibility. If I go in here, right here in this workbook, and I click on a calculation, and then perhaps I want to say reduced premium. Right, I can do reduced premium. And then what I want to do is I can take my monthly premium out of, and I'm gonna say minus 100. Well, or minus 10, this is just an example. And this is gonna create the new column, and this is what it's gonna be equal to. I could also create calculation to compute the averages, right? I can do that. But let's click on OK. So I created a calculation, right? That's it. And I can use my calculation as a column, as if it was a column in the visualization. But every time when I have to edit my calculation, I can go in here and I can click on edit calculation and make changes to this. I could also use the functions. There are functions for the strings, there are functions for dates, etc. Right? I can use functions in the calculation. I'm gonna click cancel and I'm gonna save it. Okay. What I'm going to do right now is this. I'm going to close this exploration and I'm going to add something to the data modular. I'm going to create data groups because if you remember this here, when you looked at these variables, right? When we looked at this show data, some of your variables have missing values, right? So this one is here. This is not missing values. Some of your variables have outliers. Like see this, if I look at this, see this here, for example, this one number of policies, this one has an outlier. So there are some abnormally high values, right? So one way to handle it is that's called the binning, right? Like for example, suppose that everybody, most of the people have between 1 and 10 policies, and suddenly somebody has like 100 policies. So I want to categorize that person perhaps 10 or more, something like that, right? Instead of seeing the actual number of policies, I want to see something like a range. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the data groups now. But I want this to be reusable. So in order to the update to the data module to be visible in exploration, I have to close my exploration. Then I need to go back to the data module, which is this, right? This is the data module we looked at. You can just click on it, or you can also select edit from the menu. Here, what I have to do is I select this data source in the data module, and I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna do the data group. Oops. Okay, I don't see the data group options here. Another way to do it is this. You need to go back to your column. You need to go back to your column, which is, in our case, it's number of policies. Oops, you need to scroll here. It's because not all columns can be grouped. But in this case, right now, we're gonna look at the numeric, right? Because this is a numeric. I just saw it, number of policies. There we go, here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna right click on the column header, and you're gonna do this create a data group. Now, this is a numeric variable. By default, it's gonna create the data group for me. What it will do is, it will, by default, it's gonna create 5 bins. See this? One bin is if I have 8 policies or higher, 6 to 8, 8 exclusive. 5 to 6, 6 exclusive. And then here is between 3 and 5, right, which is 3 and 4, and then less than 3. This is, I believe it's doing by the frequency. It's not doing by equal width binning. So not necessarily, each bin does not necessarily have the same width. It's based on the frequency. If your data had missing values, you can specify how you want to handle the missing values. There's an option to specify what you want to do with missing values. You may also change the number of groups, and you may also change the group boundaries here, okay? Now what I'll do, I'm gonna create this, and by default, it's gonna be the same column name with the suffix group. I'm gonna create this, and I'll show you what happens. It's gonna add something for me. It's gonna add the column, hidden column, which is called the bin. If you scroll down, you will see it. See this? It's gonna do the group. It's gonna do, this is a new value, right? Which is a group label. And this is a bin number. So what I did for you, I put it together. I put it together on a slide, so it's much easier for you to look at. So see this here. This is original column, and you have a value 1, and it goes in bin number 1, which is just less than 3. Right? This is a label. This is a bin 1. Oh, there is a typo on the screenshot. It should say bin 1 on the bottom one. Okay, then the next one should be bin 2, bin 3, bin 4. Okay, there is a typo. So basically, what it's doing is that this is a hidden, this is a bin number. Hidden means that it's not available for the visualization. And this is original column, and this is how it's going to look like when it's binned, right? So this is what I did here, right? I created the new column, this one, right? This is going to be hidden because it's not available. I don't want to make this available, in fact. Now, you might be wondering, is grouping only for numeric variable? Of course not. I can also use it to group my categorical variables. The difference is that the groups and the number of groups are not going to be, will not be defined. I need to define them myself. So what I'll do first, let's save this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the coverage, not coverage, but policy type. Let's find it here. It is policy type. And what I want to do is I want to group policy rather. I want to group the corporate and I want to group the personal, right? I want to group them in the same group. So let's do this. Let's create a data group, right? So here is a list of values that I have in that column. It's a unique list of values. To create the data groups, I need to create a new group label. And in this case, I'm going to do corporate, right? So this is a new label. And then I have to add members to it. To add members, I just select it here and I click on the arrow, right? I click on the arrow and it will create this. Okay. Now I want to create a new group. I'm going to click on new group and I'm going to select, I'm going to type it personal, right? Personal. And I'm going to do same thing here. I'm going to do this and I click on arrow. But if you do something that you did not want to do, if you move this in arrow, you would need to select here and then click on the remove, okay? This is how you would remove. Okay, so now I have 3 more remaining. What I could do, I could just add a new group. And in here, I'm gonna do the special. Okay, this is special. And oops. See what I did? This should be personal. Let me name it personal. Okay, this is personal and this is special. Okay, this is gonna be special. So now I'm gonna go back here, special, and I'm gonna add this in here. Okay, no problem. Okay, so basically here the downside is that I need to specify the groups and I need to move this to the group explicitly. Okay, so now I'm gonna click OK. Another difference is that I'm not gonna get the hidden column here. There'll be no hidden column. This is the difference between the grouping numerical and categorical, okay? So this is our original column policy, and then when I go back in here, I'm gonna see that policy type. I'm gonna see this policy group in here, okay? And sometimes what you want to do is sometimes you want to hide the original column. That's also possible. If you want to hide it, you would just do this. You would just select this hide from users if you want to, okay? So now what I'll do is I'm going to save it. You have to make sure that you save it. And I'm going to close this and I'll show you what's going to happen next. You're going to go back to your explorations that we created today. Reopen it. Now we're going to go back to here, over here, and you're supposed to see that you have 2 groups that you just created. See this? Number of policies group and a policy group. Those 2 that I created are available here. Okay, so this is very important. You want to create a data module as much as possible. That way it will be reusable later. Okay, so now, so I showed you how to do it here. This is the fun part. This is going to be your assignment 3. And there is also a little bit on assignment due this week. Here, we're going to determine in this specific example, the target variable that you want to predict is the total claim amount. And we can do the spiral model. I'm going to go the single. I'm going to go choose type, and I'm going to do this one, here. Advanced, it's under advanced analytical analysis, and I want to select the spiral. And then here, for the target, I want to specify total claim amount, right? And how do I know that? Well, because remember I was looking at the diagram, and the diagram, identified it as a potential target, right? So now I have to find the total claim amount. And if I don't see it, I can do this. I can do the searching here. So I see it here now, and I'm going to put on the target. Okay. All right. Here it is. Well, one thing that I found is that selectable filter cannot be used in here. You cannot really apply the selectable filter in this visualization. Okay. Just remember that. All right. So what do I see in here? Every pin represents the set of predictors. Like for instance here, this is a vehicle class, employment status, marital status, etc. And if I hover over here, it's going to show me the list of variables, right? And also the predictive strengths. In this case, it's 55%. Well, it means maybe Yelena needs to go back to her data and do a little bit more of cleaning, etc. Right? But you can also toggle here. You can see the single driver, two drivers, right, etc. Because the diagram becomes too cluttered, so you want to sometimes filter out what you see, right? Clicking here does not do anything. You cannot view the details when you click here. You would need to do something different. There is another visualization type, and it's called the driver analysis. So let me click on a new visualization, oops, new single, and I'm gonna do the driver analysis here. Oops, single part, one. Okay, choose type, and I'm gonna do this one. This one, basically, I see it as a spiral diagram sliced. That's how I see this. So, and I'm gonna pick this as a target. Okay. And remember, it's showing just one variable because I still have a search turned on. Okay, so this is the best predictor. This combination of variables is the best predictor, and it also gives me the decision tree. The reason I get the decision tree here is that the combination of predictors gives the highest predictive strength. It's this. See this? Now, if I wanted to look at other predictors, I can click here, and this will update. So this is the total claim amount and vehicle and economy. Oh, vehicle class and employee status. See this? So here you have the three variables, right? You can click here. This is another one, right? It gives you the visualizations for the actual drivers. A spiral diagram does not give you this, but the driver analysis will give you this information. Okay, so sometimes you want to use a driver analysis. Spiral model is a starting point, but then you want to use it sliced. Okay, so what else you could do is we can do the decision trees. New single card, and I'm gonna go choose type. Basically, what decision tree is gonna do is it's gonna break down the claims into the category, and it's going to say that people in the claims in this specific category have this average total claim amount, something like that. So let me click on the decision. It's a decision tree, and I'm going to drag and drop my target here. There we go. So basically, the tree consists of nodes which can be expanded and collapsed. So for your assignment, you would need to submit, you would need to include the screenshot, right, for assignment 3, but I recommend that you include the screenshot of the part of the tree that you are discussing in the paper, because it's very difficult to capture all of the whole tree. It's very difficult to capture the whole tree. So only take what you need for the discussed portion of the assignment. Okay, so I'm collapsing this, and the way you would do it is you're gonna look, you read the tree starting from the left. You're gonna look at the vehicle class. And if it's this, if it's a two-door car, you take this path. Then you're gonna look at the employment status, right? And if it's a medical leave, this is a path you take. Then you can look at the monthly premium, and if it's this is what you do. And you continue walking the tree until you get to the terminal node, and the color code of the terminal node indicates the average total claim amount. That's how you read this. And then here, those are the written rules. It's in writing. So basically what it means is that I have 78 records, which is 1% of all records that meet this criteria, and this is their predicted average claim amount, something like that, okay? So here is the criteria, right? So then when I have a new claim and I want to predict the claim amount, I can basically use this set of rules, and I can see which rules my data fits better to, right? Something like this. Or you can also do the drill through on these 3 sum bars, right? So you're given this as an assignment, as part of the assignment. You can drill through here too, see? Okay, so this is a tree. So let's go back to the slides. I want to make sure that I showed you everything that is important. Another thing is this, you'll be asked to do it for your assignment 3, is you can select which variables you want to use as predictors with variables you don't. You'll be asked to create more than one model, but to do this, you would need to go in here. See, this is target, and you want to select edit drivers. And in here, you may specify what you do not want to use as a driver. Like, for example, I do not want to use the claim amount, right? Because I'm looking at the total claim amount. And you go into uncheck it, okay? You go into uncheck it, and then you click OK. So it's going to rebuild the model, right? That's what it means by second model. But you want to do something that provides more accurate results, better results, so to speak, higher percentage. Well, you don't want it to be too high, because when the results are very, very accurate, you could be overfitting your model. So just think about it. You don't want to be overfitting your model, which means fitting to the specific sample of data, right? And still you want to aim for model improvement. So here is a combination that you need to look at, right? And it's the same thing for this, for the spiral diagram. If you go in here, this is a spiral diagram. You may also specify which variables you want to use as drivers, which ones you want, right? So this gives you the second model, okay? Another thing that I forgot to warn you about is that you'll need to watch this recording more than once, because I'm covering a lot of information in the same session, and it's very difficult to capture, to grasp everything in one sitting. So you're gonna have this recording and you will have to go through this more than once, because by the time you get to assignment 3, you may need to review this, okay? So here I spelled it out more on decision tree, how you can adjust the view. For instance, you can see the type lowest, the type highest target values, right? This will just show the specific branch of the tree, or you may just show the whole tree, but it won't be readable, right? Or you may just collapse certain nodes, etc. Right? Here I showed you how to interpret the decision rules, right? Oh, but notice that here, so if I was going to see, if I was going to tell what actually predicts, is a main predictor of my claim amount, well, I would probably say it's a location code, and also the car type and the employment status, the policy effective to date. Those are important factors that determine the claim amount based on this, because you want to look at how many times the variable is used in a tree construction, right? And you want to also look at which variable is used for the sport split, right? So we showed you the sunburst. Next, I'm going to show you the comparison card. Basically, what I'll do here is this. I'm going to go to the new card, and I'm going to do, new single card first. And I'm going to choose the visualization type. And perhaps I want to, well, it doesn't really matter. what I do, but I wanted to show you the point here. Let's just do, perhaps, just perhaps, I can do the area, and I can do the this for the x-axis. Let's specify the, just an example. I can specify the state, and then for the y-axis, I can specify this claim amount. Let's see what's happening. So this is, it's supposed to give me, oh, I put it in the wrong slot. I have to put on the y-axis. There we go. So see here, this is my area plot, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter, but in this case, I'm not going to use the predefined, the selectable filters that I defined earlier. Instead, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to find my gender, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go all the way down. Ooh, filter, I'm going to put it here. Now what I'll do, oh, did it put it? Nope. I thought it did. Oh, it put it in the wrong place. I have to move it to the filters. Okay, I put it to the filters. There we go. Oh, it's still not doing it, because you have to make sure that you selected the slot. So let's do this. You delete this. Ooh. You have to click on this, and you can delete this. Oops. Remove. Okay, you remove this. Now, here I have x-axis as a status. Y-axis, it's going to be the total, it's going to be the claim amount. This is the y-axis. And now I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to say the filter, and I'm going to add a filter on the gender. This is a gender. And in this case, I wanted to filter it to gender equals male, right? And then I wanted to look specifically at the female, but for some unknown reason, it's just not cooperating today. Oh, you have to have this selected. Jesus is not cooperating. So let's do this. Let's remove this. Let's do this. No, I'll do it differently. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to go to my cards, right? And this is a card that I just created. I'm going to click here. I'm going to copy this. I copied this. Okay, so this is the second card here. I've got two cards. I should see two cards. I made a copy. So now, when I go back to my cards, let's see, you can navigate through cards here. See this? I should see two cards like this because I said to copy it. Oops, it did not. Oh, here it is. I copied this card. See this? I copied these two cards, right? Didn't I? Hold on. Income by marital status, income by employment status. This is not. What I was trying to do is this. I was trying to make a copy. I was trying to make a copy of the card, and I want to create one visualization for the males and one visualization for the female. And then I wanted to do the comparison. I want to compare them side by side, right? So here, and then what I wanted to do is I wanted to paste, but well, okay, so I do this. This is when I click on here, I should be able to do the copy. Oh, I can actually duplicate. That's much easier. I can do this duplicate. Excellent. That's much easier. So see this, now I've got this too. What I could do is this. I can select one. I can do control click, and I can select another one. Then I go in here, watch, and I'm gonna do compare. This is a comparison visualization. You're not asked to do this in a homework assignment. This not in the one due to this week, but this is what I did, right? So now what you could do is this. You can select here, and then you can apply filter. You want to set one of them for the males only and one of them for the female. So you have to drag and drag. You have to drag and drag the attribute, right? In my case, this is a gender. You have to get it to drag and drop to the filter slot. Somehow you have to drag and drop to the filters, local filters. Ew, it's still not doing it for me. It's still not doing it. Sometimes it does not cooperate, but basically you have to have this slot you have to have the slot highlighted, which is what I did. But sometimes it takes patience. Oh, I thought it was highlighted. You have to make sure that you are highlighting it. It was. Jesus, it's not doing it what I wanted to do. But what I wanted to do is this. I wanted to filter it here. I wanted to filter it here. Local filters, and I wanted to do this. Okay, well, all you could do is this. Jesus, you could do filter. And then what you want to filter it to is gender. You want to select one, right? You want to select just one. 1 to 1. Yeah, this is what you want to do. Oh, and then you click OK. And then the other one, you want to select 2. Well, let's delete this. But the whole idea here is that you want to show one plot for male and another plot for female, and then you can go like this side by side and compare the value. That's what it is. But to do this, you have to add a filter. So in here, for some unknown reason today, it just, oh, there we go. Worked. And now here, I'm going to select female. See this? It finally worked. So this one, I selected female. Now I'm going to do another, I'm going to select the second one, right? And I'm going to select the male. So here is another gender. And basically, here we go. Now it worked. Yes. No. See, sometimes it's a matter of you need to have a patience sometimes. I'm not sure what's going on, but the whole idea, you've got the idea, right? It has to be in the local filters. Okay, now it is. Now I'm going to select the male. I'm going to click OK. Okay, there we go. So that's the reason why I told you to create the reusable filter in the data module. That way you don't need to worry about this drag and drop again. You just drag and drop the whole thing. You don't need to do it like one variable at a time, and it's much easier to do that. If you add the selectable filter, it's much easier. You just drag and drop the whole filter. That's it. You don't need to do anything else here. Okay, so then here you can look at it side by side, right? Plot A, plot B, gender male, gender female, and you can do comparisons. So that way you can determine if the gender really matters for the claim size and where it matters, in what state, okay? So this is a side-by-side comparison. That's what it is. All right. So this is important that you want to always save it. Always save it. And how you save it is this. This here, your exploration is safe. But for right now, at the moment, you can only save to your personal area. You cannot save to the team area. Okay. There will be slight changes when you start doing a group assignment, the last assignment, but we're going to have another session before that. Okay. So I showed you a lot of stuff. And I want you guys to ask questions. Since this time, we did this on Wednesday, not on Mondays, we usually do. Hopefully some of you had the chance to get started with this, right? So let me see in the chat if there are any questions. And what I want guys you to do is, if you have not had a chance, I want you to go and try accessing your account. Okay, I cannot see the chat. Steve, please let me know if there are any questions in the chat. For some unknown reason, I'm unable to open it. Okay. And another thing is that it's a lot of information. You just must watch this presentation more than once. This is how it works, and this is how it worked in the past semesters. The student need to watch the presentation more than once because I've been throwing a lot of information here for you. Okay? So let me see chat. I still cannot see it.
I don't see anything in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've got thorough coverage of all the topics, but I don't see anything in the chat.
Well, trying to cover as much as possible, yeah. Yeah. Hopefully people are still here. I know everybody is like adjusting because of the time changes in most of the states. Yeah. but I hope it was helpful. Yeah. Yeah. But is there anything else you would like to add, Steve?
No, I think that's, as always, a very thorough coverage. It's got a lot of information to digest, as always. And the key, as you've said many times, is get in there and try it, practice, practice, practice. Don't try to build your final assignment the first time you go in there. And if necessary, look at the slides and the presentation again. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I'll send the recording to the professors, and Yelena will send the slides to the professors, and they'll post them in your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Bye.